AI. Dun dun dun. That's right. The big bad. We're talking about AI today. Lots of companies, game companies very much included, are starting to get into AI. They're starting to see the value. They're starting to drool at the idea of being able to produce art much more easily so that they don't have to pay artists as much. If you want to hear a little bit more about my whole stance on this whole thing, I did a video a couple months ago about AI. It was a whole thing. I'm really happy with that video. That's one of my favorite videos that I think that we've done this year. I'm happy with it. But yeah, more companies are using AI, and it's getting kind of scary. It's getting kind of scary for artists who don't want to be replaced. There are already probably too many artists out there, too many amazing people doing amazing work for them to even find work in an industry. And now you've got AI threatening them even more, replacing even more humans, because now we can just type a thing into a thing and it makes the art for us. But it's not just scary for the artists, it's scary for us too. Because I, personally, and again, as you'll see in the whole video that I did, I don't want to see AI art. I don't want AI art in my video games or any of my media. I want to see art created by people, created by artists. So it's already pretty scary. And so, Nintendo recently had their shareholder Q&A meeting, and somebody asked President Furukawa what Nintendo's stance was on AI. And this is not really something, to my knowledge, that Nintendo has acknowledged yet, even though it's been a really big hot button topic for a good few years now. And so he gave a nice little statement. In the game industry, AI-like technologies have long been used, for example, to control the movements of opponent characters, so I believe that game development and AI technology have always had a close relationship. Generative AI, which is becoming a big topic recently, can be used in creative ways, but we recognize that it may also raise issues with intellectual property rights. We have decades of know-how in creating the best gaming experiences for our players. While we are open to utilizing technological developments, we will work to continue delivering value that is unique to Nintendo and cannot be created by technology alone. So, if you want to just look at the broad strokes, it means, no, we're not into AI right now. We're not into generative AI. And, he's right. Like, the concept of AI, quote-unquote artificial intelligence, like it's been around for a while. You program the bad guys in a game to attack you. That's technically AI on some level, but generative AI, using AI to create things, to create art, that's a whole other thing. And what he's saying here is, we're really not into that. We really, basically, no. We are not into using generative AI right now, despite a lot of these other companies just really boldly, like, despite the fact that, like, almost everybody is just wildly against the idea. You even have a substantial amount of the player base, at least online, at least the vocal minority, boycotting games for even considering using generative AI in their games. And I can stand behind that mindset, absolutely, because, like, we gotta put our foot down. If we don't want it to become a problem, you gotta speak with your wallet, And so it's cool to see that Nintendo is basically saying, no, we're not into it. We're not like 100% counting it out, like completely. We're not gonna like pledge to never use any kind of AI related technology ever, because it's a little bit more complicated than that. And sometimes you do have to go along with technological advances and whatnot. We're not gonna prick our finger and like write out a commandment on a stone slab or anything, but no, we're not into that. So that's the broad strokes. That's basically what they're saying. But I really, really like how he said it. I like that he's like, yeah, AI, like it's a thing. AI and technology, it is a thing. It's something that we've all used in some way here and there, programming computers to do stuff for you. Sure, it's something we've been doing, and it's something that's getting better. But generative AI, he admits it can possibly be used in a creative way, but they recognize that it may also raise issues with intellectual property rights. And that's what's so funny about these big companies just champing at the bit to use AI, when there are big intellectual property problems that arise. If a computer is creating an image for you, it is doing so only exclusively using elements that have been fed into it. Every single, at least based on my understanding, every generated image, every generative AI image is just ripping off 1,000 different sources. It is. And that's where AI pundits will come in and they'll be like, oh, but that's the case for people too. Every person is simply drawing on inspiration from things that they have seen. So it's the same thing. And I cannot fathom how anybody, I'm sorry if that's you. I don't want to insult anybody, but I cannot understand how you could possibly think that's the same thing. I mean, you go all the way back in time. We're getting deep. We always have to go deep with this stuff. AI just brings this stuff out. You go back in time, you know, the very first caveman scrawling with mud on a cave wall, or like beating on a stump with a stick to make music. Okay, sure, that was the first art, and every single piece of art since then has been iterative, has been inspired, has been comprised of all of the art that we have seen and all of the experiences and things that we have seen, and we take those things and we make our own art. Yeah, sure, it's not quite the same as a computer doing it. A computer is not injecting any of its own personal experiences into it. That's the thing about art. It's inspired by the art you have seen, but also the life that you have lived, and there's a big difference between a person doing it and a computer doing it. We didn't have to go that far into it, but I'm sorry. I'm just saying he's right. He's right, and it's funny that so many big companies are totally okay with the idea of using an AI to generate an image. And you could look at that image, and maybe someday they will create a different AI that can look at that image and look at all the inspirations and be like, I can give you the 1,000 different images that this pulled from, that this essentially copied from. So that right there is a problem. Generative AI is an intellectual property issue. None of it is original. It is impossible for a computer to generate an image that is original in the sense that we generally use the word original. That's not even the best part though. That's smart. That's just smart thinking business-wise. You're covering all your bases. What I love is the next part. He's so casual, and and I know this is a translation. We had like a few translations. This is like the official one that Nintendo gave. I love the confidence here. We have decades of know-how in creating the best gaming experiences for our players. While we are open to utilizing technological developments, we will work to continue delivering value that is unique to Nintendo and cannot be created by technology alone. Basically, and this is Arlo's translation, we don't stinking need it. We have been doing this for decades. We have been delivering some of the best video games ever to our players. We deliver value. We deliver value that is unique entirely to us. And what we do is so good, you could not do it with technology alone. It is not possible. And maybe I'm reading between the lines here, but what I'm getting from this is AI is a crutch. AI is used in the presence of a negative amount of either desire or talent or funds, any kind of resources. Companies want to use it because they want to spend less money. It doesn't come from a desire to deliver a good product. It comes from a desire to spend less money. Or it comes from a desire to create something even greater than a person's own abilities. They don't want to put in the work for the, and I know like there's a whole entire thing, accessibility thing. I really just do not want to go into that whole thing there. That whole argument is a really big whole mess of its own. But basically Nintendo is saying we have no lack. It is not difficult for us to create great art. We have no desire or need to have technology do it for us. We are already awesome. So at least for right now, you can keep your generative AI. We don't need it. And I think that's cool. Yeah, AI's been around for a while. Yeah, AI has its uses. Yeah, maybe there could be some way to use generative AI in a good way someday. I don't know. Not gonna make any sweeping statements. Not gonna enter into some sort of anti-AI covenant for the rest of time. But right now, we just don't need it. It doesn't fit. We are already too good to even consider wanting to use generative AI. Yeah. You tell him, Furukawa. You tell those shareholders. You get them.